Welcome back to All About Winning Daily Fantasy Sports. My name is Ty Patton. The playoffs are here, and the wild card weekend kicks off with the 10-6 Buffalo Bills visiting the 10-6 AFC South champion Houston Texans. The Texans opened as a 3-point favorite in a game total of 41. The line has moved back and forth between 3 and 2.5, and currently sits at 2.5, with the game total rising from 41 to 43.5 points. Before we unpack this game, I want to share the numbers that are fantasy relevant to the Showdown contest itself. There were 121 Showdown contests through the 2019 NFL season, including last Sunday night's Seattle-San Francisco game. These Showdown contests have an average winning score of 132.10. The average winning captain score is 42.67. Since the average captain score represents 32% of the average winning score, I focus a lot of attention to the captain's position. With that being said, the captain's position breaks down as follows through these 121 contests. The underdog running back has been the captain in the winning lineup more than any other position 23 times for 19%. The favorite quarterback, 22 times for 18%. The favored wide receiver has been the captain in the winning lineup 21 times for 17%. The favored running back has been the captain in the winning lineup 16 times for 13%. The underdog wide receiver has been the captain in the winning lineup 15 times for 12%. The underdog quarterback 9 times for 7%. The favorite defensive special teams has been the captain in the winning lineup 6 times for 5%. The underdog tight end 3 times for 2%. The underdog kicker has been the captain in the winning lineup 2 times for 2%. The favorite tight end has been the captain in the winning lineup 2 times for 2%. And the underdog defensive special teams has been the captain in the winning lineup 2 times for 2%. Now, I also broke this down by combining the positions, whether they were the favorite or the underdog, and it broke down as follows. Running backs have been the captain in the winning lineup more than any other position 39 times for 32%. Wide receivers have been the captain in the winning lineup 36 times for 30%. Quarterbacks, 31 times for 26%. All others, 15 times as the winning captain for 12%. I also look at the overall straight-up one-loss record of the winning captain, and it breaks down as follows. The captain comes from the winning lineup with a record of 86 wins and 35 losses for a win percentage of 71%. And I broke that down by position as well. And it breaks down as follows. Running backs in the winning captain position are 30 wins and 9 losses for 77% win percentage for their teams. Wide receivers, 22 wins and 14 losses for 61%. Quarterbacks, 23 wins and 8 losses for 74%. Now, do these numbers unlock the winning showdown lineup for the Bills-Texans games? Absolutely not. But what they do give us is numbers that we can use as part of our overall process to give us an edge, which in the end is all we're looking for, is an edge. Some of the main takeaways from these numbers, obviously, running backs appear in the winning lineup more than any other position, 32% of the time as the captain. The underdog running back appears as in the captain's position more than any position, 19% of the time. Another thing that I used is, and I use this as a major part of my overall process, is the captain comes from the winning team 71% of the time, and that's a big number. And I use these numbers as a part of my overall process. My overall process also involves, first, I take a stand. Who do I think is going to win the game? What is their path to victory? The matchups, passing game, rushing game, defenses, what their matchups are, wide receivers versus their cornerbacks. And then from that, I take the players that I feel are necessary to support that game theory. What are the players needed to support that game, that team winning the game with those matchups? And then from those players, I select a handful of players, a few from each team to be the captains because I want players that I feel have a path to be the highest scoring for this particular game. Once I've identified the captains, I build a few lineups, and I build my lineups around that captain. I make sense of it. For instance, if I have a quarterback in my captain's position, I want at least two targets in the flex. There's only one quarterback that I don't do that with, and that's Lamar Jackson. I still like to have at least one target to go with him, but he is a combination of a quarterback and a running back. So, but he's not in this game. Another thing that I do when building lineups, if I have a wide receiver in the captain's position, I want the wide receiver's quarterback in the flex position. There's only one way he's going to go off, and that's if the quarterback throws him the ball. It's just common sense. And then I build my lineup around that. And if the team that I think is going to win, obviously I'm going to grab a piece of the team that's playing from behind, a player that will be involved in them trying to come back or come from behind. And that's how I build my lineups. In this game, the Bills come in as a formidable opponent and provide a difficult matchup for the Houston offense, as they have the number 3 DVP versus the quarterback position, their number 5 DVP versus wide receiver, and the number 12 DVP versus the running back position. This defense is legit, and cornerback Tre'Davious White will make it difficult for Deshaun Watson to get the ball to wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins, Hopkins has a 30% target share for the Texans offense. I look for Watson to look to his other wide receivers, such as Stills and Kiki Kuti. Fuller is questionable right now, and they're leaning towards him not playing. If Fuller does play, I'd have a little bit of interest. I'm still worried about his injury. He's come back from injuries before and played a play or two and not been able to finish the game. So, factor that in as well. Just because he's active doesn't mean he's going to give you what you need. He does have a better matchup. The number 2 wide receiver for Houston does have a much better matchup than DeAndre Hopkins. They're still going to try to target Hopkins, but Tre'Davious White for Buffalo is definitely a shutdown corner, and it'll be difficult for Watson to get him the ball. And another thing, last year in the playoffs, of course, it was a totally different team. DeAndre Hopkins in that game was 57% owned. It was a wild card weekend against Indianapolis, and Indianapolis came into Houston, and it wasn't Hopkins, but it was Kiki Kuti who had the big game. Now, he scored, I believe it was 33 fantasy points in that game, and for a team that only scored 7 fantasy points. So that's what you got to look at. If Hopkins is going to be shut down, if they're going to focus on shutting him down, and the Houston's running game doesn't scare anybody with Carlos Hyde. If anything, I would be more worried about Duke Johnson catching passes out of the backfield. Now, Houston is expected to have defensive end J.J. Watt back, which will definitely provide a boost to the Houston defense. Buffalo quarterback Josh Allen will provide a challenge to the Houston defense, as he also has averaged 31.9 rushing yards per game on top of his passing yards. Wide receivers John Brown and Cole Beasley should find room against Houston's number 21 DVP versus the wide receiver position. And Buffalo running back Devin Singletary should be able to exploit Houston's number 27 DVP ranking versus the running back position. I like Singletary a lot in this game, supporting a Buffalo win on the road, and that's the game script that I'm going to go with. I believe they have the better defense, the better running game, and I like to target those teams. It's a low spread. They're a small road underdog, and I really like Houston in this game. So with that being said, this is the lineup that I liked based on the numbers that I just shared with you and the game script that I just talked to you about. In the captain's position, I'm going to go with Devin Singletary. Deshaun Watson has a lot of projected ownership on the 4-game main slate. figured that's going to carry over to the Showdown slate as well. He can definitely have a 30-point game. It'll be to his other receivers. I do think Tre'Davious White is a major factor in this game against DeAndre Hopkins. If Watson has a big game, I believe it'll be to the other receivers as I just talked about. But I really like Singletary. Houston, you can run the ball against them, and I think Singletary is poised for a really big game. I think he'll be a more contrarian pick for the captain, and it's the underdog running back, which the numbers I just told you, I shared with you. The underdog running back has been the captain in the winning lineup more than any other position, so that's what I'm going with here, and I'm also going with a player that I think is going to be on the team that wins the game. So I'm going with Devin Singletary in the captain. I'm going to bring that back. I'm going to correlate that with the Bills' defense. I think Watson has turned the ball over 7 times in the last 5 games. He takes a lot of sacks, and I think the Bills will get after him. And as I mentioned, this is a legit defense, and defense correlates well with the running back. If Singletary gets going and the defense is doing their thing, there won't be a need for Buffalo to put the ball in the air a lot. I will have Josh Allen in the flex position. I like his rushing floor. I like the fact, with J.J. Watt being back, putting pressure on him, this might make him take off running even more. He has had 9 rushing touchdowns this year, and when they're down on the goal line, he's took 5 touchdowns in from, I believe, it was 5 yards and in. So it's not unlikely for him to take the ball himself from down around in the red zone and take off running. Next, I'm going to have Deshaun Watson. Feel like I need some exposure to him. If Buffalo's going to get a lead, or if Houston has to come from behind, Deshaun Watson's going to be involved in that, and he's the most likely to be involved in the comeback. It's not going to come from the running game. I'm going to give him one of his tight ends, Darren Fells. He has targeted Fells down in the red zone quite a bit. I feel like with the coverage on the wide receivers, that's going to funnel targets to the tight end position, and it just makes sense to stack Fells up with Watson. And I'm also I really like this guy a lot. I'm going to give Allen a target as well. So I'm going to have both quarterbacks targeting their tight ends with the Bills defense and Singletary in the captain spot. This leaves $1,200 on the table, which in Showdown is a good thing. The average winning Showdown slate, I was looking at some numbers the other day. The average winning Showdown slate's leaving just over $1,000 on the table. So leaving money on the table is a good thing. And this might be a little bit contrarian, using 2 tight ends and with Singletary in the captain spot. It allows me to get both quarterbacks in there as well. I really like this lineup a lot. I'll be using it. And the purpose of my video isn't to give you my picks or show you my lineup so you can take them and use it. If you do and we end up in the same contest, no big deal. I've never won one of these Showdown contests. I do cash in a lot of them. I'd say my cash percentage is 85 to 90% of the time. So I do really well in the Showdown. So if we stumble into the same contest with the same lineup, and if it's a big GPP, I don't mind splitting because something's better than nothing. But I want to show you the numbers and the process that I use and how I use all of that to put together my lineups. So that's the one that I've built. Now, what I also do is I utilize an optimizer, whether it's to build lineups for a main slate or a Showdown. I use an optimizer, and the main reason I want to use an optimizer is because I want to see the different randomizations of the players that I like. If I'm building manual lineups and I'm entering a bunch of different contests, because I don't MME, I don't have anything against anybody that does. It makes sense. If I'm ever in the position to do that, I will do that. But for now, I'll play some GPP, larger tournaments. I'll play some head-to-head, some double ups, some 50-50, and I spread it out. And I build a few different lineups like that lineup. For this game, I believe I had 5 captains. I had 2 from Houston and 3 from Buffalo. And I don't put very many rules on, especially on a showdown, because I just want to see a true randomization of the different players and see what it looks like. A couple rules that I do use are, as I already mentioned, if I have, say for instance, Josh Allen in the captain, I want at least two of his targets, Cole Beasley, John Brown, um, in the flex, tight end. I want at least 2 targets. Likewise, if I have a wide receiver, say I have John Brown in the captain spot, I at least want Josh Allen in the flex. And those are just some of the basic rules that I use. I try to only use one of the 4 between the 2 defensive special teams and the 2 field goal kickers. Field goal kickers do offer a safer floor, and I tend to go with the field goal kicker from the team that's favored. The reason being, if they're the favorite team and they're supposed to win the game, then they have a higher implied total. It just makes sense. They're projected to score more points, so I want the kicker from that team. Now, I try to only use one. At the most, I'll use 2. Um, Sometimes I've used 2 defenses and it's worked out, but I don't do that much. As you've seen on the manual lineup that I built, I had just one of the 4, and that was the Bills defense. So I set it for 150 lineups and I let it go. I don't always get 150 because I also set the minimum and maximum exposures for the players that I want to use. Like Devin Singletary, I had him 15 to 20% in the flex position, 20 to 25% in the captain's position, and 35 to 40% in the flex position. And I go down and I set all my exposures for the captain and the flex. And I've reached out to this company that I have this optimizer from because it's a paid site, and I wanted to have their permission before I use their name on my videos, so everything's going up and up. That's why I don't reveal that right now. And anyhow, I run it for 150. It doesn't always give me 100. Rarely does it give me 150. Today it gave me 133 out of the 150 requested. And I just go down and I look at the different randomizations. Sometimes I'll look at them and think, oh, I like this, but if I move this player here, and actually that's burned me a few times by doing that. So I just use that. Like if I'm going to enter the 20 entry quarter or the 20 entry $1, I'll just look at it. And sometimes I get a better ideal than what I had on my manual lineup, and I'll go with that if I'm entering a larger GPP like the $10 tournament and things like that. And like I always do, I always share with you guys at least one of the optimized lineups. I'm going to give you 2 of them today. I thought it was really interesting. And so here's the first one. It had Deshaun Watson in the captain spot, Josh Allen in a flex. It had the Bills defense. It had Kiki Kuti in the excuse me, flex position, and Darren Fell. So you got 2 targets going here with Deshaun Watson and the captain. And it also had DeAndre Hopkins in the flex. And this used all the money. So this probably won't be a contrarian lineup here. I don't like Hopkins at at all, truthfully. And so if I was doing this, I would probably pop that out of there and put Singletary in. And that's what I was saying. I'll look at some of these and adjust them myself. And as I said, that's burned me a few times. But it actually makes sense. So you see the Bills defense here with Watson in the captain. That's actually a good correlation. Say the Bills defense gets a defensive touchdown. Now you have Houston playing from behind, or say Houston gets a lead, and then Watson's coming back and they get a pick six. Now Watson's coming from 2 scores down. So the defense and the quarterback in the captain spot, they do correlate fairly well with each other. This particular lineup, it goes along with the rule that I have that if the quarterback's in the captain, I want at least 2 targets. So it's got Kuti, Hopkins, and Fales. It's actually got 3, and it's got Josh Allen and the Bills defense. So and spent, like I said, spent all the money there. I would probably mess with this a little bit, and like I said, I would probably take Hopkins out of there and put Singletary in, and do something like that. But that was the first one. Now here's another one that it generated. I like this one a little bit more, obviously, because mine had Singletary in the captain spot. It had Singletary in the captain. It had the Bills defense. It had Josh Allen. It had the kicker from Texas, Fairbarn. He does have a really good leg. Indoors, at home, the favorite team. Now, they're implied to score more. They're a small favorite, so it would make sense. And again, Darren Fells. Fells has showed up a lot in these optimized lineups, which I think is interesting. And then it also had Deshaun Watson. So you got Watson with Fells, their field goal kicker. So it's saying that Buffalo, which would make sense if Buffalo stalls some of the Houston drives and they have to settle for field goals. That would make sense. And then you got Bills defense correlating with Singletary and Josh Allen. And this lineup, it left 800 on the table, which is a good thing. And this was an optimized lineup. So there you go. I'm going to be doing a showdown video for all 4 playoff games this weekend. So I'm going to make sure I get this posted and to you guys in plenty of time. I want to thank you for joining me. I encourage you to please drop any opinions or comments that you may have below. I try to answer them all. I really appreciate the comments that I get, and if I can answer a question, I will. If I don't know the answer, I'll see if I can find the answer for you. Please share this video, like it, subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that notification bell. My subscribers have been trending upwards. I'm sitting at 98. I really want to get over that 100 threshold. This channel has grown beyond my expectations this year, and my viewers have really went up. And if you're a viewer and you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. It's free, and I have some really good information, and you can't lose anything by just giving me a chance. I look forward to making this channel grow. As I said, it's went way beyond my expectations when I first started out, and that's all because of you guys. And I want to thank you all again. As I mentioned, I will have Showdown videos. My next one is, and it's ready to go, is the Tennessee New England, and then tomorrow I'll post the 2 videos for Sunday, which will be the Minnesota at New Orleans and the Seattle at Philadelphia. You can also follow me on Twitter at winningabout, and I put a lot of information on there. Don't forget to check the injury reports. This game kicks off at 4:30, so the injury report will be ready about 3:15 tomorrow. It's 90 minutes before kickoff. Even if a player doesn't have an injury designation, always check and make sure they don't have a last-second scratch. And, they get a belly ache or something, or something weird a few weeks ago. Robert Woods on a Sunday night, last second, was ruled out as a surprise. And, if you put your lineup in and you didn't check it anymore until kickoff, you got a big surprise if you had Robert Woods in your lineup. You don't want a 0 in any contest. You definitely don't want a 0 in Showdown when you only have 6 players. So always check your injury reports. So I'm going to get this posted. Again, thank you for joining me. My name is Ty Patton. This is all about winning daily fantasy sports, and I'll see you again real soon. Thank you.